Did you ever want to toss one back with Kerouac? Get a little smashed with Ogden Nash. Start to read with Danielle Steele. Slosh some gin with Anna Eastman. It's time to get lit-faced while you are day drinking with authors.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Day Drinking with Authors, the podcast series where I pick a book, the author picks a drink, and we discuss both. Today, my guest, Mindy Hung, has written a little bit of everything. She and I met writing romance. We were in an anthology together roughly a million years ago. She has since gone on to write fantasy novels, but her new novel, The Glowing Life of Leeann Wu, blends everything I love. It's kind of women's fiction-y. It's kind of romance. It's got a lot of magic. It's got some perimenopause, which is a new interest of mine. I'm going to read the back cover copy because my mom likes that. Mom, you'd like this one. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful read. You know, it's one of those books that kind of sweeps you up and carries you along. And you're like, I could listen to these characters argue about what they're going to have for breakfast. I could listen to them decide what they're going to go, what movie they're going to watch. I just want to be a part of their lives. Mindy's done an incredible job creating this world you want to be a part of. But let me get to the back cover copy. A seemingly inexplicable magic takes over the lives of 3 generations of women in this gripping romantic novel, sure to captivate fans of At the Coffee Shop, of Curiosities, and The Change. Leeann Wu's hands have started glowing at the most inconvenient times, and the single mother and midwife doesn't know why. Could it be perimenopause, a hallucination brought on by lack of sleep? On top of that concerning development, her daughter is off to university in a few months. Her tenuous relationship with her ob-gyn mother is in peril of cracking, and she's attracted the attention of a younger man who sees far more than she's comfortable with. Her hands, glowing or not, are already full. But as widespread insomnia plagues the town and life-threatening accidents begin to pile up, Leeann discovers the glow is not an anomaly at all. Rather, she's part of a long line of women who possess a power unlike anything Leeann's ever known. Yet even with the cryptic clues left by her great aunt before her untimely death, Leeann has no idea how to use her new skills. With her town in imminent danger, Leeann doesn't have time to waste. She'll need to make peace with her magical heritage and do whatever it takes to find out if her glow means something more before it's too late. Listeners who loved practical magic will find lots to love in the glowing life of Leeann Wu. I am thrilled to have Mindy Hung on the podcast today. I am so delighted to welcome Mindy Hung here to Day Drinking with Authors. Mindy, welcome.
Hello. It is so wonderful to be here. I am so excited. Molly, you are my idol in all ways.
That was going to be so loud. That's going to be so loud. Mindy, you should find better idols. I am so thrilled to talk to you about this book. But first, what are we drinking today?
Today we are drinking a beautiful hibiscus seltzer thing. And I love hibiscus because it is very tart. And I guess that is my mood for eternity now. So this is how it goes now. I got this from Cookie and Kate. It's a wonderful recipe you can put together. I leave out most of the sugar because also I can't take sugar anymore. So fun times in Mindy Hung land, let me tell you. And yeah, I also love the color. I don't have the drink with me because I am a complete klutz and will spill it promptly over every single piece of equipment that is in this room and maybe all over the walls. It is bright red though, so that is very cheerful. So I love it.
One of the things that's happened to me is that hibiscus tastes like soap.
Oh no.
Like my tastes are changing as I get more magical.
Yes, exactly. As we all get more magical, everything changes. It's such a wonderful rite of passage through life, isn't it?
Really is. Well, I have to say, last year before the United States election, I was reading so many witchy books because I really believed that women were going to save us, and they didn't. But I still believe that women are going to save us. But this year I'm starting with these I read your book, and then I just read The Women of Wild Hill by Kirsten Miller, who wrote The Change. So now I'm in these like angry women are like menopausal women who just are sick of all the shit are going to save us. So talk to me about like one of the things I love about your book is it feels like a reframing of the conversation about women getting older, and instead of it being something to grieve, it is something to celebrate. Like, it is powerful and magical, and we should all be fucking younger men, and we should be righting the wrongs of our mother's past, like all of these things. So talk to me about how this book came to you.
So I had what I think, and I'm still not sure, is my first hot flash around 2019. A fun year. I met you that year, I think. And I thought I was having heart palpitations. So I went to the doctor because it's such an overwhelming feeling, right?
It's shocking.
It's how much energy is in your body at that time to be able to produce this feeling. Your body is almost taken over by some other power. It feels like that. At the time, I was also really interested in writing a witchy, multi-generational book. It was in the air. People were, maybe we were still a little bit more hopeful at that point, except that, I'm not sure. It's all blur because, perimenopause has taken that away. In any case, but I do remember this. I do remember thinking, why can't this powerful thing inside me be something that's actually a power? Why does it have to be this thing that just overwhelms me? And, and that is the thing. When we have these feelings of being overwhelmed, not being able to handle something inside of us, sometimes it's just a transition to another greater phase. And so that's what I decided would be the main power of my character. She would have this inside of her. She wouldn't understand what it was at first because nobody really talked about it or really told her about it. And that's, part of the story is that her mother, came from Taiwan, didn't really like to talk about her own personal past and her family history. But she had something inside of her blood, and that is passed down to her daughter and her daughter's daughter. And I just wanted to make this something good. I mean, because honestly, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating to be in this phase of your life sometimes and have this constellation of unrelated symptoms, which all could possibly be perimenopause, but also could be, discussed with the general state of the world or some other sort of health problem or some other sort of skill that you're learning. Who knows? It could be a skill. It could be a power. It could be magic. That's what I went with.
Magic makes for a much better story for sure. So. But I just like it all. We will not belabor the menopause conversation, but it's something we're all dealing with. And I think a lot of people listening to this are dealing with it. The fact that her mom doesn't talk about her past, and even though Leeann is a midwife and so is deeply ingrained in women's cycles and all of this stuff, it still felt like the mystery of it is what really resonated with me, because it was something that my mom doesn't talk about. It was something that it has just now become this thing that we're all talking about, and it feels so freeing. And it does feel like we're turning this, like it's the end of your life conversation into it's the beginning of the next part of your life, right? Like it just seems more powerful than it ever has. And I feel like your book fits right in there.
Oh, thank you. It's actually, I love all of the Reddit rabbit holes I've fallen down. Yeah. I love being able to talk about this because, my mother also didn't really talk. My mother was a nurse midwife in Taiwan, and she did not talk about this kind of thing with me very much. And when I mentioned something to her about maybe I'm going through this, she's like, oh, it's too early. And that was maybe like 2 years ago. So, but it's not, it was not too early. I was already going through it. And that's the thing. It's also, I think that for a lot of people, it's sort of an amorphous period of you, because, you know, there is no mark of like, this is when it's definitely started for you. It's not like menstruation where you're like, that's happened. Okay, now this part is just like, okay, maybe I'm in it. Maybe I'm not. Who knows? It could be anything.
Maybe I just have high blood pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
And panic attacks. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, that's been fun, right? Yeah. My new anxiety is social anxiety. So that's been awesome. Especially with the release of a new book. It's like,
oh my gosh. Well, so looking at this is your third pen name. This is your third pen name.
It's
and
ridiculous.
We're in the same boat. I have had my share of pen names too. And like, talk about like, you know, metamorphosis, recreation. How did Mindy happen?
So I have written under Mindy Hung before, and it's mostly been essays, nonfiction. Like that's been I was an editor and a journalist for a long time. So a lot of nonfiction is written under that name. And I did write one literary novel maybe like 15 years ago under that name too. And it's long forgotten. It's out of print. It's, you know, it's bye-bye. And I often forget that book. And I often forget everything, let's face it now. But I think that publishing just sometimes needs you to reinvent yourself. Life does too, but publishing, it really is honed in on this. And so I started out in romance writing as Ruby Lang, and I wrote most of my books under that name. And then I sort of turned around and I did this sort of screwball romantic comedy, contemporary romance as Opal Way, because they sort of wanted a different pen name for a different mood. And rom-coms were really, really, you know, really, really big at that time. And they still are, but you know, it's getting a little bit harder to wedge yourself into that space. Mm-hmm. And the Opal Way pen name is something I'm really interested in. But then I had this book that I really wanted to write. I really wanted to write this magical multi-generational book. And it doesn't fit with the other names. So here I am reinventing myself. Like, you know, both of us, we're like Madonna, basically. The many ways that we are like Madonna, reinventing ourselves constantly, you know, because that's the thing, right? You know, you want to honor the readers. You want to make sure that they know what they're getting because, and they love you for it. Mm-hmm. But you also, sometimes as a writer, you want to stretch, you want to go in a different direction. You want to learn about a new genre. And this one, The Glowing Life of Leeann Wu is, I call it a contemporary fantasy. Mm-hmm. You know, it's also been called a book club book.
Man, like we can get into the things that publishing, the categories that publishing is using right now. But I find that it's like the name change is, I mean, once you've started to do it, it's almost freeing. Like yes. It really is freeing. Like, I mean, like, and taking, you know, I think that it can be perceived in writing circles as failure when it's the opposite of failure to me, right? Like you are still going, you're still working, you're writing bigger stories, you're writing different stories. Like, isn't that the point of what we're doing?
I love the way you framed that. That is beautiful to me. Sometimes I do feel like a failure. Let me be honest.
It's hard.
It's hard not to, because, you know, I try not to do the comparison game, but also you need some sort of metric sometimes for yourself. So balancing that kind of thing is difficult. And so I don't know what's happening with the Ruby Lang name, for instance. It's still my most well-known one. But at the same time, I've written some books that I'm really proud of under that name. I don't know what's happening with it at all. I think Opal Way is still in play, and my actual name, Mindy Hung, is out there now.
I mean, I was like, the fact that I am now writing under my own pen name, my own, like my birth name,
right?
Is like, I mean, it is this. It just feels like this story of like, baby, mother, wife, crone.
Right, exactly. Yes, it's
Like,
all the stages right
coming
there.
into my own.
Yes. Take that name.
Yes.
Take that name like a bad bitch, right?
Right. And writing, I've been a fan of your books for a long time. And this is a special book, right? It's a special book that should, kick open and, launch 1,000 more books, right? Like, I mean, I hope that's the way it's going.
That is the dream. I have no idea, honestly. I really try not to pay attention to this and leave this because it's crazy making. I don't want to use that word lightly, but it does make you a little bit. It takes you out of maybe the headspace that you need to be in order to write more books. And that's my goal. And it's definitely, I mean, you have done so much. You've had this amazing career, and like all of your books are just absolutely luminous and gorgeous.
Stop your nonsense.
No, I remember. Okay, so Molly, you and I were in an anthology together.
We were.
And it was, so I kept pinching myself that I was in it with you. And then we had this part where we had to sort of exchange our stories with each other in order to do like some beta reading, some critique. And I was so in awe of you that I had so much trouble sending it to you. I was just like, I just have to put the finger down on the mouse and it's going to go to Molly. It's going to go to Molly. It's going to be fine. Like I was so worried. And then I had to critique your story. I'm like, who am I to critique? Molly O'Keefe, Molly Fader. Like, who am I? And so I think I wrote something like, I think maybe there is a repetition of a name somewhere. And like, this is all I could say.
It was a good critique. It was a good critique. It was a good critique. I was like, that's the pleasure of those anthologies, right?
Yes.
And who organized that? Was that
Zoe,
I think it was it
like
Emma?
It was, I think Emma started the idea of it. I think you guys had a conversation about the West Wing. Yeah. And AJ Cousins.
Yes.
And her name starts with a T. Tamsin Parker.
Oh my God. Good job. Good job, brain. Good job.
Thank you. It's at this point, it's like trying to find words is like a drunk very carefully putting one foot in front of the other. That is like, but yeah, Tamsin Parker, they were amazing. They like
That's a good anthology.
Got it. They got these anthologies together. They formatted them. They got people organized. They
did the covers. Zoe was in that one. I think she did the cover.
She did. Yeah, she did the cover. She's such a powerhouse. I admire her so much. I love her books. God. Yeah, it was really a good time to be on Twitter and writing and friends with all these people. Like I still am in awe of the amazing talent.
Back in the early days of Twitter when you could find your people instead of just more dumpster fires.
Yes.
Also the West Wing of it all.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, a moment of silence. So anyway, back to this beautiful book. And you a bit answered this question about how it started, but the thing that I was really struck with as I was reading it is like how perfectly all the pieces of it kind of came together, and how like this story about menopause could frame it all. So I like what the story about having the hot flash, and making this period of time magical. And then was it always going to be a romance? Was it always going to be this generational family story? And was it always going to be this sort of mystery like I've read several books where people have come from Taiwan, and it like the mystery and silence surrounding the history of Taiwan is like rich and kind of terrifying and unbelievable. So like, did you know that you were going to use that as part of your story? Because and clearly it's a autobiographical to some extent with your
Uh,
glowing hands. No, I'm kidding.
yes, my glowing hands.
No, with the family from Taiwan.
Oh, so yeah, my family is from Taiwan. I like to say that my books are not autobiographical, but I am friends with all my characters. I want to be friends with all of my characters. And a lot, you know how writing is. You're a magpie and you take every single bit of, like, every single hint of a word, every look that you see is potential starting off point for you.
Yeah.
And so for me, my family's from Taiwan, and it wasn't until maybe the 90s or the 2000s that I finally understood that for a long period of time, a lot of my relatives and my parents had lived under martial law, basically. When the Chinese, see, I always get the terms wrong, but after the Second World War and after the Cultural Revolution, the existing Chinese government came to Taiwan, and basically Taiwan is officially known as the Republic of China because they believe that they're China. And whereas the People's Republic of China, you know, the current government in big China, believes that Taiwan is just like a rogue territory. So it's like, it's a really weird tension. But also my family already lived in Taiwan. We're not Aboriginal people from Taiwan. So like, that's even more, another layer of complication there.
Mm-hmm.
But my family had already lived in Taiwan. And they speak a dialect known as Hokkien, often known as Taiwanese. But when the Chinese came, they said everybody has to speak Mandarin. And, you know, there were some incidents of repression. And I probably shouldn't go into this because it's all terribly political. And I also am like a total amateur at understanding all of this. Mm-hmm. But, you know, so I didn't understand the extent to which why my parents always told me to try and keep quiet politically, for instance. Yeah. They didn't want me to talk about this thing. And it's so ingrained in me that I still have a lot of difficulty with it. I'm sure some people think I'm an absolute loudmouth sometimes, but I have a lot of trouble, and it is something that I've worked to try and learn to speak up about certain things. So, but for instance, like I didn't know that there was a general amnesty in the 90s. And I didn't know that my father's uncle had been a political prisoner until the 90s. And so when he was released.
Until the 90s. Oh, you learned it in the next. Okay.
Well, like he was released in the 90s.
Oh.
He had been in prison for 30 years, maybe. And I didn't learn about it until my father said, oh, and the family all moved to Brazil. So he's going to move to Brazil for his last few years. And I'm like, what? Who is this? You didn't even talk about him. And he's like, oh, well, when I did talk about when he was young, he used to take us fishing and we'd skip school and go fishing with him. But, you know, and that's the part that I learned. I didn't learn that big whole middle part. And so, yes, he passed away in Brazil, like maybe 10, 15 years ago. I never met him, but yeah, like there's this whole thing, you know,
and it's a family thing. It's a cultural thing. Like the part of the aunt, you know, that Leeann had been left with her aunt and didn't have any memories of her aunt really, because when she reunited with her mom didn't talk about her aunt. So, you know, none of those things got reinforced. And so, and they didn't know each other very well. Like it just becomes this like really, I mean, selfishly and, you know, fertile area for story. I mean, tragic and awful, but also
Yes.
it worked really well in your book.
Oh, thank you. So the main thing was like, I just really wanted to get at the idea of somebody who has this really rich and important history, who doesn't know half of it, and it's submerged. And my parents had a lot of trouble. My parents still have a lot of trouble talking about some of this stuff. My daughter is very interested in family history, and learning more about this. And sometimes they just don't want to remember things. And I think that's part of it too. So I, wrote this out of a little bit of frustration. I always knew it was going to be a generational story. I always knew it was going to be multi-generational. I also wanted to, because I think that sometimes we tend to write about these Asian or immigrant parents who are really hard asses, right? But there's more than one parent in this story. Like Leeann herself is a parent. And I wanted to show a little bit of how being in, this culture changes your approach to parenting, and how the different ways that we talk to each other amongst the generations. That was always a goal. I didn't know that there was going to be a romance in it, but I suspected that, I've always been one of those people who would mash the Barbie faces together. I like writing love stories and romance. So, but yeah, it is a little bit more secondary to the main story, which is maybe learning about these three women, and maybe also just even Leeann learning about herself.
We're going to get back to that conversation about the romance in a second. But one of the things that I really that really struck me as I was reading, I have a teenage daughter who's going off to university. I saw myself reflected in that relationship, the way that my daughter and I are, which is loving, and there's nothing for her to rebel against, because we talk quite a bit, and I felt all of that reflected. And then there were two instances in the book where her daughter just hit her where it hurts, like, and the way that I felt that, like, when the first one where she's sort of like, kind of like, you're not special, mom, and I mean, like, you expect that from the mom character, or you expect that from your mom, like, as a 50-year-old woman, my mother has certainly, said a few things, but you don't expect that from your kid. And I felt that, so it was devastating. It was devastating for me and for your character. Can you, and the other thing that I really appreciated about it is that there wasn't anything for the daughter to rebel against. So you didn't have this like constant simmering tension or conflict, so that when those moments happened, they were really powerful. So was that a struggle with the daughter? Was it reflective of your life with your daughter? Did you have to do quite a bit of editing around the relationship with the daughter?
So my daughter is younger.
Okay.
She's in high school right now, but she's not off to university soon. But the thing I do feel, even when she was a toddler, is, you love them. They love you, especially when they're super young, but they also will be the ones to say the most devastating things to you about yourself. And you never suspect it, because your love for them is so immersive, and they depend on you for so much, especially when they're super young. And so when they speak, and when they say something like, oh, you're not that special, or else when they only see you sort of as the mom, and are maybe not able to see you as something else, which is, fine, actually, because that's who you are. Yeah. But you are other things. And when they can only see you as that, and they say it, sometimes it hits really hard. And your kids, they can cut you. They will. And yeah.
It was very, very good. Very good. And I think that the part that I really liked about her, and that resonated with me, is that, she's working very hard to see her daughter, you know, she has seen her daughter as a child and also as she's like kind of on the cusp of this next big thing. And she has seen her daughter in a really clear, full picture. And her daughter sees her as the, you know, it was well done. Anyway, back to the romance.
Thank you.
Kenji was not like, you thought there would be a romance for sure, but like, when did you decide you would be younger?
I think I knew basically from the start that he would be younger. I thought that was interest. Like, yeah, this is an interesting idea to me. Because I think, so Leeann is 42 and he's, I think, just 30, maybe 29. I cannot remember
30.
for the life of me.
30 is what he is.
30. And
smoking hot is
smoking hot. Yes. And I thought to myself, okay, well, first of all, this is a little bit of a book about wish fulfillment, because one of the wishes that I have is about like trying to learn about your family and actually learning about it. One of the wishes I have is about, you know, these perimenopausal things are actually powers. And one of the wishes is that, yeah, you can still be smoking hot at 42 and some young man is going to find you hot.
Yeah.
Like I personally am very happy with my husband and he's lovely and also smoking hot. But at the same time, the idea of being not invisible, as so many women of our age are, not just not invisible, but also attractive. And the fact that we are together and have a life is seen as an attractive thing. I want that for people. I want people to have that because we are amazing and together and we have all this richness in us to offer. And I wanted that manifested in a book, at least.
Yeah. I really, I mean, again, like I've been reading these sort of witchy books about women in menopause and how part of the narrative is that is being turned on its head is the idea that we're, you know, that part of our life is over, or we're not interested in it, you know, or that it's more complicated. And talking to women, living my own life, like that's the opposite is true. Like I've never felt more powerful when it, you know, in terms of this sort of thing. And so the idea that I loved that scene where she's like, oh, he's here because I'm fucking amazing, you know, like, and more than that, like I could crush him. I could crush his feelings. I could crush, like I am the get in this situation, not this young 30-year-old man. That was really effective. And like the thing that I'm loving about, sorry, that was not a question. That was just me telling you nice.
I love it. I love it. I love it all.
You know, like that the conflict in that relationship was just on her side. Like he was all in from the beginning and he was a great guy. I mean, total wish fulfillment, but just a great guy for a woman who's 42 years old and figuring out that she can glow.
A match made in heaven.
Yeah, exactly. So talk to me a little bit about one of the things that I loved in the book, the magical realism of her having this magic, because you have it set in a very real world. Nobody else really has magic. You've got to deal with the magic. And one of the things that I liked was that there were all these scenes where they were dealing mother-daughter, grandmother-daughter, you know, all this stuff. And then they would say, we've got to talk about the glowing. It would just be this like, shit, we've got to figure this out. So was it hard to keep it woven in? Was it hard to make it not everything be, that's the question. Was it hard to make it so that everything wasn't just about this glowing? Like Kenji sort of like, hey man, when you come, you glow. I don't know if you know this, you know, like there's a lot of places that it's in the story where it doesn't take over. And I would, as a writer, I would find that hard to not just constantly be explaining it or trying to. Does that make sense? That was a weird question.
Oh, but you know, it's really interesting. I'm going to first address the magical realism thing, just because I really try to stay away from that term because it is a really specific one. And,
Yes.
it deals with a lot of post-colonial writing, especially from Latin America. And I highly recommend you go out and read a lot of it. I love Gabriel Garcia Marquez, but especially I have to say, Jorge Luis Borges. We read him in high school. Labyrinths. It's a mind bender. Amazing stuff. And of course, it has influenced me. But yes, this is, sometimes I think of it as like a domestic fantasy in a lot of ways, because it's about people in a real world, everyday life. In the city, the town that they live in is sort of slightly modeled on Kingston, Ontario, where I went to university. And as for the magic, it was really difficult because I think that a lot of readers might have trouble with it because I think people want it explained, right? I think people want the magic to have a logic to it. And that's what I love about magic, is that it is not logical.
Right.
It's not scientific. And but I also really, in my mind, I was like, what does this mean? What does it do? When does it manifest? And one of the things is I didn't put magic in everything because I also want to emphasize that it's difficult for them to access it sometimes. Leeann doesn't really get it. She has trouble with it at first, and it is something that she does have to practice and learn about. And also there is that resistance to it. Like Lulu, the daughter, she's very excited by the idea of possibly witches or witchy people in her family. In that first scene, like they learn about the great aunt, and they're like, "Oh, is she a midwife witch?" But when she actually gets the magic, she's like, "I did not. This is overwhelming to me."
No,
and again, it's like that. It is like that physical feeling of like that. Like, I feel like a lot of when we did talk about perimenopause in the past, I think it was a lot of like, oh, and after this, I will have no fucks left to give. And, I'll be like that woman in the poem who wears purple and has no problem. Like, but, I feel that, when you're in the middle of it, again, it's like a skill that you have to learn. And it's like that awkward transition period. Lulu does not like this feeling of being overwhelmed. And that is also her personality very much.
Yes. Yeah. She is like creating her spells are like to-do lists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she, like, when I imagined her point of view, I'm like, she talks a good talk, but she doesn't want this magic at all when she actually gets it, and then the mother who maybe wants it too much, but also is like, oh, this means that I have to talk about my past. So these constraint or like these things about their character were the things that really informed how and where I deployed the magic. So there was that. And so it's more like a magic of character, I guess, is what I'm saying, than about like the magic of opportunity.
Right.
I just made all that up.
Well, it was well said of you.
Thank you.
I feel like domestic magic is a great. It's exactly what I'm reading right now. Like,
Yes,
I think you just created something. the label the label, the shelf that everybody needs.
And you're to hear on this podcast first. Molly O'Keefe's Day Drinking with Writers. Thank you.
Trendsetting.
Yes.
One of the, to stay on that really quickly. One of the scenes that I really loved is when Kenji is like, the mom is like, if you have kids with him, they won't have the magic. And he's like, from what I've seen, you don't have the magic. She has the magic. And I was just like, sing it, Kenji. One of the things I want to, like sort of in the nitty gritty of writing, the character who I thought balanced the magic or created the world where the magic was sort of explainable was the best friend. And then she became a big part of the plot towards the end. We won't, but like, was she always a part of it? Like a bit of the sisterhood, a bit of the goddess? Like, was she always a plan, or were you suddenly like, no, she's got to actually have someone to talk to so that this isn't both totally different and isn't shrouded in mystery? Like, this woman just accepts that, magic is probably real.
Yeah. So I think in earlier drafts, she did have a smaller role, but like the big thing that like catalyzes a lot of the book happens to her. And I was concerned, and some of my beta readers were concerned that maybe she's just like a little bit too much of a, I don't know, a crutch. I don't know,
A plot
just
point.
some,
Yeah.
plot point. Thank you. Exactly. That's a good word. And but also, it became more clear to me that Leeann was going to have somebody to talk to about
Right.
this stuff. And who are you going to talk to about this besides your friends? The friends who've been through it, who've gone through it, are going through it right now. And so the friendship became increasingly important. And I'm so glad that it did. Parisa is her name.
Yeah.
And she's like a nurse midwife who was Leann's mentor and then becomes her best friend. And I love their relationship because I feel like, this is where she sort of gets and maybe becomes more at peace with her power, is when she talks with Parisa.
Well, she gets all this context
Exactly.
and like, that's, her family immigrated from Iran, and she had stories of this. Like, she had context for her.
Exactly. And and that's also that she has the context of her own history. And I think that's really important. Yeah.
Good job.
So
Good job.
thank you.
You both wrote it and then explained it so well.
But even then, and I love the fact that for Parisa, this is still something that's just like talked about among the women.
Yeah.
Like they don't include the men in this. And there's, Parisa's husband is also in this story quite a bit. He doesn't know anything about this whole entire life. And I think that's so real in a lot of ways.
Yep.
The way we talk to other women is very different sometimes in just the way and this is the thing I love about witchy books too, is that, it is a way to talk about women's history specifically. And so those friendships and those mother-daughter relationships become so important because this is where it's contained, right? You don't get it in the history books. You get it among the conversations and the stories and the myths and the power. So,
Jesus, Mindy, well done.
Thank you.
And on that note, Mindy, thank you so much for coming by and really inspiring me right now to just like remember how important these stories are, and like, just because you're right, the oral history of women's story, the history of women's stories is oral. Like, we're writing it right now, and I think we're changing it right now, particularly when it comes to conversations about menopause. And your book is a fantastic part of that. I cannot encourage people enough to go out there and grab it.
Thank you so much. Oh, it's been an honor talking to you. I love you. So.
I love you too, Mindy. What are you working on something now? Are you on a break? What's happening?
I have something with my agent, and it is, I am describing it as practical magic meets Every Summer After. And it's got some Ontario lakes, and it's got some magical stuff and sisters, and crossing my fingers about that. So I'm really hoping that, something goes out there. But yeah, I'm
magic
very...
and Every Summer After just sold it to me and to my daughter and to a whole bunch of other women. So I hope, my fingers are crossed too.
Yay. Thank you.
Awesome. Everybody out there, please go pick up The Glowing Life of Leeann Wu and the next book that we are all now anxiously awaiting. Mindy, thank you so much for coming out. Everybody out there, stay safe, have a drink, read a book.